Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the physical art of hard copy editing. Now, I know digital tools totally dominate our day-to-day workflow right now, but mastering the physical page, that is still an absolutely crucial, highly tactical skill in any professional editor's toolkit. By the time we wrap up here, you're going to have the precise methods to confidently tackle the printed page and seriously level up your editing game. You know, it's a debate we hear all the time in the industry. Is pen and paper editing totally obsolete in our digital age? Well, as it turns out, stepping away from the screen isn't just about nostalgia or clinging to old habits. It actually gives you some incredible, tangible benefits for your workflow. For one, it massively reduces eye strain after you've been staring at a monitor all day. But even better, it creates this tactile, highly focused environment. That physical focus forces us to master fundamental markup skills and catch big structural issues before we take those refined edits back into our digital software. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, the art of hard copy. Second, copy editing versus proofreading. Third, procedural versus structural markup. Fourth, hard copy best practices. And finally, using standard marks. Right, let's jump straight into section 1, the art of hard copy, editing by hand. So, stepping away from the screen to mark up a printed document isn't just some quirky personal preference. It's actually a highly strategic choice. When we say hard copy, we literally just mean a printed, physical document that you edit directly by hand. As a pro, you make a deliberate, conscious decision to use this approach based on two main things: the specific level of editing the document needs at that exact moment, and its current physical formatting. Moving right along to section 2, copy editing versus proofreading, and where they fit on the editing timeline. To really get a grasp on this timeline, it helps to think of your document like a patient on an operating table. Copy editing, that is the major developmental surgery. It happens early on, where you're actively clarifying big ideas, drastically improving the organization, and fixing major grammar issues. And because this is such heavy lifting that involves inserting whole sentences or moving paragraphs, the document is usually double-spaced. That gives you the actual physical room you need to operate and make extensive marks. Proofreading, on the other hand, is the final cosmetic touch-up. It happens late in the pre-production phase, right before publication. Here, you're strictly hunting down minor errors, typos, and formatting glitches. Since the major surgery is already done, proofreading on a hard copy is typically single-spaced. You aren't rewriting, you're just polishing. Now, understanding our industry jargon is super important for this workflow, starting with the term dead copy. I know, it sounds a little morbid, right? But it's really just the approved, fully edited document that you rely on during the proofreading phase. Think of it as your absolute baseline. The heavy copy editing is completely finished, the author has given it the green light, and now this dead copy is your ultimate source of truth moving forward. And that brings us to the final destination, the galley proof. The galley proof is the pristine, typeset version of the document. It shows you exactly how the text is going to look in its final published layout: fonts, margins, page breaks, the whole shebang. So during the proofreading phase, your job is to meticulously compare that dead copy we just talked about against this freshly printed galley proof to catch any sneaky layout inconsistencies or dropped words before it goes out into the world. Okay, section 3, procedural versus structural markup and understanding markup types. Pro editors use different types of markup depending on what they're trying to achieve. Procedural markup is all about the micro details. It tackles specific, direct text changes right there in the flow of the document. If you're correcting a misspelled word, deleting an extra space, or tweaking a comma, you're using procedural markup to tell the typesetter exactly what to change. Structural markup steps back and looks at the macro level of the page. Instead of fixing a typo, it involves tagging whole sections by their function or category. If you've ever used styles in Microsoft Word, like highlighting a line and clicking heading 1 or body text, structural markup is doing that exact same categorical tagging, just with a pen on physical paper. But if you do decide to use structural markup, there is one non-negotiable rule you have to follow. You must always provide a legend. Remember, editing is a team sport. If you invent this brilliant, highly complex tagging system on your page, but the typesetter or the graphic designer has absolutely no idea what your tags mean, the whole system just falls apart. Your legend is the translation key that clearly explains the formatting requirements for every single tag you use. Let's get into section 4, hard copy best practices. Sticking to a very specific physical workflow ensures that anyone else picking up your document can actually read it. First, always mark your actual text changes directly in the main body of the page. Second, if you have layout changes or specific formatting instructions, you want to keep that body text completely clean, so write those broader instructions out in the margins. And third, this is a fantastic pro tip to live by, always circle those marginal notes. Circling them acts like a giant visual flag that says, hey, this is an instruction for the layout designer, not extra words to type into the paragraph. Editing is basically a conversation at its core. When you're marking up a hard copy and you need to speak directly to the writer, you should write your comment in the margin and use the standard label AU : right before your note. This instantly lets the writer know that this specific comment is a direct question or suggestion meant just for them, and it cuts right through all the other procedural markup noise on the page. To keep your markup clean, effective, and professional, we've got a vital checklist of best practices. First, stick to the simplest, most standard markup possible. Don't invent your own unique symbols that no one else is going to recognize. Next, if a mark could be misread, take an extra second to clarify it. A classic example is a lowercase l. To make sure it isn't accidentally read as the number 1 or a capital I, write it in cursive, or literally write the letters EL and circle them. You also need to be aggressively consistent throughout the whole manuscript. Use a bright-colored, medium-tip pen. You want to strictly avoid blue or black ink because it just blends right in with the printed text and your hard work will instantly disappear. And of course, write neatly so you don't cover up important content that the typesetter still needs to read. The official standards give us a really great overarching reminder here. Erase stray marks that could be mistaken for instructions. It's just a gentle reminder about cleanliness on the physical page. Seriously, please erase your stray marks, doodles, and scribbles. You definitely don't want an author or a typesetter mistaking your accidental pen smear or coffee ring for a brand new, highly confusing punctuation mark. Finally, Section 5, using standard marks in our cardinal rule. This brings us to the absolute cardinal rule of the trade. Editors use 2 standard sets of marks, one specifically for copy editing and one specifically for proofreading, and they are absolutely not interchangeable. Why is it so strict? Well, it goes back to our surgery analogy and the physical layout of the page. The copy editing set assumes the document is double-spaced, so it actively uses that wide-open room between the lines for complex insertions or deletions. The proofreading set assumes the document is single-spaced, which requires a totally different margin-heavy approach so you don't clutter up tight lines of text. Even though some symbols might look kind of similar to the untrained eye, you have to use each set appropriately for its specific phase. Mixing them up inevitably leads to a chaotic, totally unreadable page. So, we've successfully walked through the entire editor's journey today. We've gone from the heavy developmental surgery of copy editing on double-spaced pages all the way to the precise single-spaced finesse of final proofreading. We've learned to use bright ink, clear structural tags, and strictly separated symbol sets to make sure our edits are perfectly communicated to authors and typesetters alike. But remember, the tools are only as good as the editor wielding them. So the next time you're reviewing a critical document, are you going to stay glued to the screen? Or are you ready to take it to the physical page? Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer, and I'll see you next time.